In this video, we will be covering the velocity insert measure functionality. In the row versus measures video, we configured the right-click menus and defined our measure and key columns. Thus, we are ready to explore the remainder of the edit measure behavior. Let's review the right-click row menu options available for inserting measures. The first option, Insert Skew at Cursor, will insert blank skew rows wherever the cursor is positioned. The second option, Insert Row at Top, will insert a single blank skew at the top of the cuboid data in the sheet, so the new skew becomes the first skew. The third option, Insert Skew at Bottom, will insert a single blank skew at the bottom of the cuboid data in the sheet, so the new skew becomes the last skew. It is important to understand that the insert skew function expands the data range of the cuboid when a skew is inserted to accommodate this new skew. When you add a measure, the default behavior is to insert a set of blank rows with the measure names. However, Velocity offers additional capabilities to configure this behavior. The Insert Skew behavior configuration establishes the way Insert Skew option will behave. To get to these options in the design framework is to select Advance, then Edit Measure Behavior and followed by Insert Measure Behavior. Let's explore the configuration options available to us. The Insert Skew defaults will add default values to the columns that you want. The default values will be picked up from the insert format of the cuboid. In our case, we have values in sequence column that we need replicated every time we add a new measure. So, let's activate this configuration. We start from the advanced option, select Edit Measure Behavior, then select Insert Measure Behavior followed by click on Insert Defaults. On the pop-up requesting confirmation for Insert Measure Behavior, click Yes to confirm. Click OK on the next informational pop-up. Now that we have successfully set the defaults, let's test by inserting a measure. Right-click to get row menus, click on Boardwalk menu, click on Insert Skew followed by selecting at Cursor. A measure is inserted at the location of the cursor. Notice the sequence and activity columns are filled for this measure, and everything else is blanks. The columns Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 should have formulas in them. So, let's activate that configuration too. Navigate from Advance to Edit Measure Behavior to Insert Measure Behavior and select Insert Skew Formulas. On the pop-up requesting confirmation for Insert Measure Behavior, click Yes to confirm. Click OK on the next informational pop-up. Now that we have successfully set the defaults, let's test by inserting a measure. Right-click to get row menus, click on Boardwalk menu, click on Insert Skew followed by selecting at Cursor. A measure is inserted at the location of the cursor. Notice, the formulas have now been created, but the sequence is no longer showing. Velocity gives you the flexibility to show only defaults or only formulae, as is the case till now. However, there is another option that allows you to allow both default and formulas. Let's activate that configuration too. Navigate from Advance to Edit Measure Behavior to Insert Measure Behavior and select Insert Skew Defaults and Formulas. On the pop-up requesting confirmation for Insert Measure Behavior, click Yes to confirm. Click OK on the next informational pop-up. Let's test by inserting a measure at Cursor. This time we have both value in sequence column as well as the formulas in columns Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 for the inserted measure. If you want to revert to inserting a blank measure, you would select the option to insert blank skew. If at any time you would like to see the setting for insert measure behavior, you can do so by clicking on Show Insert Skew Behavior. Selecting this option will open a pop-up displaying the current settings. Once we have our settings configured, we need to enable it by selecting the Insert Skew behavior. We can also disable the configuration by selecting the Disable Insert Skew behavior option. Velocity also allows configuration of setting defaults for cells of the measure. For example, we can provide default values for the deposits in January to $100. This can be done by setting this by navigating from Advanced to Edit Measure Behavior to Insert Measure Defaults and clicking on Set Default Skew Insert Values. In the pop-up, you will need to give the coordinates of the cell, i.e., the measure and column header, where you want the value to show. For our example, we will enter the measure deposit and column Jan to be equal to $100, followed by clicking on OK. Click OK on the subsequent informational pop-up. You can verify your settings default skew insert values by navigating from Advanced to Edit Measure Behavior to Insert Measure Defaults and clicking on Show Default Skew Insert Values. Once the values set up are acceptable, the next configuration is to enable the settings, which can be done by navigating from Advanced to Edit Measure Behavior to enable Insert Skew Defaults. A pop-up showing the skew default values setup shows up. Click on OK to continue. Let's test this out by inserting a measure. Notice the sequence values, the formulas, and the value in column for Jan and for the measure deposits. The default values that we just configured are working with the configuration that we did earlier for Insert Measure Behavior. If there is a need, we can delete the default configuration that we set up too by choosing Delete Default Insert Skew Values option. We can also disable the configuration by choosing the Disable Insert Skew Defaults. To see the configuration setup, click on Show Insert Skew Default Status. The values are shown in a pop-up window. Click on OK to close the pop-up. While inserting skew, it is good practice to remove all the data values from the format stored in the workbook. We should leave the formulas. Let's examine our skew format as it is currently stored. We can navigate to that from Advanced to Edit Measure Behavior to Insert Measures Format and select Open Skew Insert Format. This will highlight the format used for inserting measures. Notice how all values have been removed and only sequence and activity values have been left untouched. Also, the formulas have been left too. By default, the process of generating a format stores the data values and formulas in the format. Therefore, the step to remove values needs to be performed manually. It is good practice to check the BWID column for values, and if any are present, we should remove them too. Let's unhide the BWID column, which is towards the end of the format. As we know, every record in the Boardwalk Velocity database has a unique address, and this unique address is assigned by the database. Therefore, new rows should not have any values in the BWID column. Let's hide the column again. Let's navigate back to the Account Summary tab. In conclusion, in this video, we covered the various aspects of configuring the Insert Measure functionality, from inserting just default values, just formulas, and both default values and formula. We also learned to set default values for a measure and column of data. In the next video, we will focus on the copy measure behavior.